will defend the goal on your right. Check that, on your left, and they will. Miami got on the board late in the first quarter following a Curtis Dickey fumble, an 8-yard strike from Marino to Nat Moore, his 10th touchdown pass of the year. And then early in the second quarter, a 64-yard strike, Marino to Duper. That took it to the 7-yard line. 4 plays later, Franklin on a 1-yard scoot made it 14-0. And then Duper again, 28 yards from the rookie out of Pitt, Dan Marino. And that is where we stand. It is 21-zip Dolphins. Uwe von Schamann will boot it away. Ricky Porter, Kendall Williams, and Alvin Moore. 3 men deep for Baltimore, and we are underway. Second half action from Memorial Stadium. It'll be Porter at the 1. He's out across the 20-yard line near the 21, and they slosh down. Well, the Colts offensive alignment will come back out. Pagel trots out. He'll have McMillan and Dickey, the running backs.
Now this ball, coming down on these kickoffs, that ball is even tougher to catch. And here, takes his eye off it a little bit, manages to pick it up. And oftentimes you get a big return in a situation like that, but he managed to get it back out to the 20.
There's Dickey, big hole, left side. Mike Charles combining with Charles Bowser on the stop. Now Dickey, the game's leading rusher at halftime, 10 carries, 40 yards. Here's a look at the defensive line. Again, the Dolphins employing the 4-3 defense. A.J. Douay not playing today. He was questionable right up to kickoff with that pulled groin muscle. 2nd and 7. Again, Dickey fighting his way. He gets 3, maybe 4 more, shy of the first down by a couple.
We mentioned earlier that Miami actually likes to play that 3-4. Coach Arnsbarger, their defensive coordinator, feels that it's a much more mobile kind of defense. They can adjust and move with the motion that an offense gives them. They're better at pass defending also. But with the injuries that they've had there, they've been forced to go in this 4-3 today, and it's not their favorite kind of defense.
On 3rd and 3, Pagel to put it up, and he was throwing for Mac Busa, and the pass of Porter.
Well, Busa was open, but I think Mike was just a little bit tentative there. He didn't set his feet. He is kind of, to his credit, he's moving around in some slot back there, but he didn't take the time to set his feet, which Frank Cush has been working with him all week on doing, and consequently threw the ball low.
Ron Stark on to punt, and we'll take a look at the hang time, how long that ball stays in the air. Oh, this is a beauty. Mark Clayton at the 17, 4.5 seconds in the air. Clayton still on his feet. Good return out at the 32-yard line.
You know, with punters this strong, hang time is important because oftentimes they can outkick their coverage.
Shula, a man that has certainly had his hands and mind full of a whole lot more than football here in the past few weeks. Marino. To Bruce Hardy, and he is rolled under at the 35-yard line. Glasgow and Barry Krause combined on the stop.
Phil, you know, you hear a lot about how important 3rd down situations are. You know, I think the most important down in football now has become 1st down. Because if you can pick up 5 or 6 and put yourself into a situation where defensive teams don't know if you're going to run or throw the ball, you avoid that situation substitution, and it gives you the upper hand.
Now Shula coined the phrase, calls it winning on 1st down, getting 4 yards or more on 1st down. False start on Marino, I believe. He pulled away from the center.
Quarterback, offense.
So make it 2nd down now and 12. you look at the number 50 on the back of all the Dolphins helmets. It is in memory of the late Larry Gordon, linebacker who fell victim to a heart attack last June in Arizona. And that was just the beginning of the linebacking woes for this Dolphin ball club. Marino, look at that protection. All the time in the world. Oh, look at this. Wide open is Mark Duper. And they're saying he was out of bounds. Good call by the side judge.
Well, as we mentioned at halftime, a receiver has to be schooled at this, and he has to consciously think about it all the time. And I had mentioned earlier that Mark Duper would not be given a few calls every once in a while, and here it isn't that difficult a job. He makes a good catch. He's concentrating on the ball, and it's not that tough in that situation to try and make an effort to get both feet in, which he didn't do there.
Now Duper did not play any high school ball at all in Louisiana because his high school didn't have football. Marino, swing pass. Tony Nathan is dropped immediately by Nesby Glasgow.
I like the way Dan Marino stands in that pocket. He drops back. He's about, they say he's 6'3". When I stood down with him yesterday, he looked about 6'4", 6'5" to me. But he's a good-sized quarterback, and he can stand in there and look over the entire field.
And when you've got offensive linemen that stand 6'4", 6'5", 6'5", and 6'4", it certainly helps to be tall so you can see over those monsters. Roby lets it fly. Ricky Porter will get a chance to feel it. And there's just a great bit of pursuit by Robert Sowell, rookie out of Howard. Because if Porter turns the corner, he is off to the races, a 46-yard.
That's where Derek Ramsey has scored 2 touchdowns, and they acquired him from the Raiders. He's a potentially great tight end.
Pagel, wide open, Sherwood. Perhaps a blown coverage. The man was wide open.
It had to be. They probably had some type of a zone combination over here. Sherwin picks it up, and he's been doing a lot of moving after. He makes the catch, but he does a lot of this after the ball. He runs pretty well. This is the second time we've seen him today make a couple of pretty good moves and pick up some extra yardage.
And the man he got past, a pretty good defensive back by the name of Glenn Blackwood. Pagel, trouble, pressure there by Bob Baumauer, and Doug Betters with his second sack today, his 12th on the year. And after the big gain by the Colts, the Dolphins come right back and stick them. That has to do something for your defense, Bob, once you've given up the big play to come back now and put the hammer on somebody.
And Miami's so good at doing that. They'll give you a big play once in a while, but generally they can come back and put the stopper in next time.
Second and 13, there's the screen, that's McMillan, and he will not turn the corner. Banged out there by William Judson. Judson, sort of an interesting story. Now in his second year out of South Carolina State, tends to play a type of peaks and valleys type game.
Well, that defensive backfield position, that corner is probably one of the toughest to play in the game. I mean, you're really out there on an island week in and week out, and I've seen some very good ones. One that I played with Lester Hayes with the Raiders. The key there is becoming consistent, like you said. Lester has his moments also, but good ones take chances, and when they take chances, they'll make a few mistakes.
Now, you hung a few good ones out to dry a few times. They're down and 13 now from the 49-yard line. Big play here for Baltimore. Charles Bowser. What a game Bowser is playing today. There's Bowser, 6'3", 232, coming after Pagel, who's about 6'1 and a half. For today's game, 45 pounds, 768. You talk about the linebacker woes of the Miami Dolphins. Larry Gordon, of course, passing away in June. Steve Scholl out with torn ligaments. Hester out. Larry Evans gone. Emmett Tilley, a separated shoulder. Ernie Roan, pneumonia. He's missed the last two. Mark Brown is gone. A.J. Dewey. Stark, pretty decent punt with that footing. Fair catch at the 10-yard line. A little bit of extracurricular activity there by Ricky Jones. 38-10. Kansas City and Houston deadlocked 10-all in the fourth. And Chicago, with an Evans to Dennis McKinnon touchdown early in the fourth period, has made that stand up. Here, it is 21-0 Miami. Andra Franklin, sweep left, and the Colts smell it out. Barry Krause on the tackle. It'll be second and long for Miami.
There he is. You know, you see Ron Stark in the mud here. He took a little bit of his hang time off. We didn't catch the hang time, but it's so tough to get footing down there. He took a little bit of the hang time and kicked more of a line drive to get the distance.
There's a rollout right. Marino, little dump pass. Woody Bennett out of the backfield. Sanders Shivers on the stop. Score out of Lambeau Field in Green Bay. The Minnesota Vikings leading the Packers 17-10. It was 17-3 until a few moments ago when Lynn Dickey hit John Jefferson.
Green Bay, I think, takes every other week off.
Oh, they must after that tremendous victory last Monday over Washington. Nathan in motion. That's Bennett, left side. And again, the Colts defensive line shuts it down. We look at Baltimore's defensive line of Donnell Thompson, Leo Wisniewski, and Steve Parker. Those three linemen are in the top 5 tacklers on Baltimore's defensive alignment. Very rarely do you see that. Usually it's the linebackers who figure prominently in the leading tacklers.
I think they're so busy tackling, though, they're not getting to the quarterback and pressuring him, which has been their big problem this year, and that's why their defensive backfield has been so suspect.
Third down and 10 now from the 22. First down and 10, check that. That's Woody Bennett. He's diving out near the 24. Let's head to New York for this update.
Thank you, Phil Stone. Elsewhere in the AFC East, does this score sound familiar? Tony Collins, 50 yards for the Patriots, 21-0. Patriots surprising the Bills. Same score as your game. Back to you, Phil.
Thank you, Len Berman. I suppose that score in Buffalo, not terribly surprising after what the boys did to the San Diego Chargers a week ago at Foxborough. Marino out pattern. And that is Nat Moore, and boy, is he leveled. Burrow, the first time he's been in on the action this afternoon. Short of the first down by maybe 3.
That quick out is a pretty effective pass to use in these kind of conditions. The quarterback takes a 3-step drop, so he gets rid of the ball pretty quick. He's not asking his offensive lineman to protect too long. And the real advantage is the defensive back, because the footing is bad, can't come up and cover on that quick move that Nat Moore put on him there on that 7-yard out.
And if you have just joined us, it has been raining here in Baltimore since late last night. A steady, heavy shower throughout this ballgame. Third and short. First down. That is Tony Nathan. Just a straight-ahead dive series. 6 minutes, 37 seconds to play in the third quarter at Shea Stadium in New York. After the Jets took a 21-0 lead over Atlanta, look here. Bartkowski, a couple of touchdown passes to Billy Johnson and William Andrews. And a Billy Johnson punt return of 71 yards. And the Falcons have drawn even. Close games throughout the league this afternoon. David Overstreet in the backfield now. Marino unloads. And it is no. Out of bounds again, Mark Duper. And as you have mentioned a couple of times, Bob Chandler, that is something the second-year man out of Northwest Louisiana must improve upon?
Well, I haven't found too many things he needs to work on. I can't criticize any of his performances over the last couple of weeks, but that is one aspect of the game that is oftentimes overlooked by even some very, very top receivers in the game. And it's an aspect that he's going to have to work on and concentrate on, because those catches that he's been called out on are very catchable balls for him.
Now Jimmy Jensen is into the ball game, and he is the trick play man. He's number 11. The give. That's Overstreet. And he dives out across the 35 near the 38.
They were hoping to use David Overstreet a lot more this year, and you know, he came down from Canada, had some problems fumbling the ball, and talking to them yesterday, they felt that he's kind of just psyched out himself. So I think Shula's trying to work him in slowly and use him enough to where he starts slowly getting his confidence back, because he is a quality runner, and I know they wanted to use him to give Tony Nathan a spell a little bit more this year.
Don Shula in his 21st year as a head coach in the National Football League. Spent 7 of those years here in Baltimore and never had a losing season. Marino under pressure, and it is tipped way back there by Randall Tate. Mark Duper, the intended receiver. I'll tell you, credit the Baltimore Colts line and linebackers with great pressure on Marino. And here's Reggie Roby to come on. Now, if that score holds in New England, pardon me, at Buffalo, where the New England Patriots hold a 21-0 lead over the Bills, and if this one holds here in Baltimore, Buffalo and Miami deadlock for first place in the AFC East. Roby unloads it. Pretty decent. That is Porter at the 20. And oh, is he hit, and the ball pops loose. Porter was absolutely annihilated by Robert Sowell. A 41-yard punt by Roby. Both Porter and Sowell are down. Very slow getting up. Sowell now with help from teammates. Kuchenberg, who's now walking off the field. Ricky Porter being held up right there in the front of your screen, on the left of your screen, by Matt Bouza. And the Colts retain possession.
Sowell is one of their best special teams players, what they call the suicide squad, which is so important. And here we see him coming in. Porter's struggling a little bit there, falling forward, and Sowell really hits him hard. You know, you get in those pileups down there, and it's amazing.
Organization, and the man they're looking at right now is Mike Pagel. 5:05 to play in the third quarter. Little hitch pass. That is Dickey. He could not hold on. Pass incomplete. Now, I asked Cush yesterday if he planned to use the screen or the draws much today. And he said they just can't do it.
Yeah, he's attempted to use the screen a few times today with Tim Sherwin, the tight end, but it's just something that they haven't perfected yet. Although it looks very easy on your screen watching the teams run those screens, they are very difficult to perfect, and it takes time, and he feels he hasn't been able to do it yet.
Second down and 10. Draw play that time was good to Curtis Dickey. And a big gain. It'll be third down. New England on the board again late in the fourth quarter. Freddie Steinfort, a 22-yard field goal. 24-0 now. The Patriots over the Buffalo Bills. Just when you thought the Patriots were down and out a couple of weeks ago, they left here 2-4, losing to Baltimore. Curtis Dickey with just a straight-up helmet in the chest tackle by Glenn Blackwood. Patriots went home and knocked off the Chargers a week ago and are now nailing division-leading Buffalo in the fourth quarter at Buffalo. You played in Buffalo for a few years. That's a tough stadium for the opposition to win in.
It is. But you know what? Buffalo has historically had problems with New England, especially when New England wasn't having a good year at times. New England plays Buffalo very tough and does it year in and year out.
First and 10, 3 minutes, 40 seconds to play in the third. Pagel looking for Henry, and it is knocked away. And the fans here want a pass interference call on Gerald Small. Bush with his hands up in the air, and they'll not get the interference call.
Actually, it was a very good play by Gerald Small. You know, as I stood up here and watched that play develop, Pagel dropped back in the pocket. He stayed there, but what he didn't do was he didn't anticipate what Bernard Henry was going to do. And he threw, consequently, he threw about just a half a second too late. And I saw it. To be able to complete that kind of a pass in those conditions, you have to anticipate where the receiver is going to be and get rid of the ball a little bit sooner. Almost throw it before the receiver looks back at you.
Probably the guy that does that better than anybody else, Bob, would be Dan Fouts of the San Diego Chargers.
That's why they are so effective. But we'll get back to it in a minute.
Busa. Oh, and he almost had it. Gerald Small again right there on Matt Busa. But as Small went past, had Busa been able to control it, he may have had a touchdown. We pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC Television Network.
This is South Florida 7, WSVN, Miami, Fort Lauderdale.
Roger Carr said with the Chargers out there that he has never seen Dan Fouts throw a ball. So that tells you that he's throwing it while these guys are still in their patterns, which is something that you have to do to get some of these defensive backs off your back.
Now you talk about defensive backs. The Colts have 6 in there right now. On 3rd and 10, Pagel. It is knocked down at the line of scrimmage. And Doug Betters is the guy who got his hand on the ball.
You know what's interesting is Betters, Bolkamper, and Bumhauer are all over 6'5". You know, when a defensive lineman is that tall, to be effective, he doesn't really even have to get to the quarterback. He only has to get near the quarterback. When you're talking about a defensive lineman that's 6'1 or 6'2, to be effective, they have to almost make the sack. But these guys have knocked down more balls today and in the past because of their height.
Ron Stark on to kick it away. 3 minutes, 25 seconds to play here in the third period. Mark Clayton is the only man off the line of scrimmage for the Dolphins. Now Stark has the green light anytime he wants to pull up and throw the ball. He tried it in Cincinnati and nearly completed a long pass. This time Stark will kick it away. Oh, he sails one. Clayton, fair catch at the 20-yard line. Big rainstorm here in Baltimore. At Cincinnati, the Bengals have won the Battle of the Buckeye State, beating the Browns today 28-21. Inside handoff, Tony Nathan has it out across the 24 near the 25. Donnell Thompson on the stop. Other scores, they are in overtime at Houston, where Kansas City and the Oilers deadlock at 10 apiece. And Chicago has defeated Philadelphia 7-6 at the Vet. Touchdown, Vince Evans to Dennis McKinnon held up. Here at Memorial Stadium, it's the Dolphins 21, the Colts nothing. Well, a touchdown passes, and an Andra Franklin 1-yard run has made the difference. You talk about Andra Franklin. A gain of maybe 1. 3rd down and call it 4. There's the final we spoke of. Philadelphia, a couple of field goals, and that was it against the Bears defense. From the shotgun, Marino. Oh, knocked away. Intended for Tony Nathan, and Quentin Ballard, the left defensive end, the rookie out of Elon College. All 6'3", 289 pounds, was back to tip it away. So Reg Roby Time to kick it away with 2 minutes to play in the third.
Here we see Quentin Ballard out there in the flat. I wonder what he's doing all the way out in the flat there for a defensive end, but he makes a very good play. Tips the ball away.
Long count here. Roby's got it all the time. He needs it. Oh, does he boom it? Ricky Porter backing way up, has it at the 23, fumbles it, picks it up, and is down. And again, it is Robert Sowell, the man downfield harassing Ricky Porter. Clock stops, 1:50 to play. Now, if the scores around the league hold, Buffalo is losing big to New England. Miami winning big over the Colts here at Memorial Stadium. As you look at New England, even stretching it out more now over the Bills, Buffalo and Miami would be tied for first place in the East, with Baltimore and New England just 1 game back. Pagel. And he'll run for the first down. And Moore out of bounds. Splash right into the hands of Barry Krause. That has got to be miserable on that playing field now, Bob.
It really is. You know, it may be my imagination, but hasn't Baltimore been in the mud most of the game here today? I mean, I think they have been down in that dirt part of the infield for most of the time they've had the ball.
Coming into this game, Mike Pagel was criticized for not looking the field over, really looking more to run and scamper rather than setting and looking downfield.
Yeah, he was looking over to the right side that time, but we see Ray Butler really running open.
McMillan recovering in the old backfield.
So a loss of 4. Ball now on 39. It'll be second down and 15. Got a loss of 5. Matt Booza comes out. Ray Butler coming just to the right of your screen. The setbacks, McMillan and Alvin Moore. Pagel out of the backfield. It was intended for Dickey. Third down and 15.
It's a little touch pass there with Dickey coming in front of the linebacker coverage right behind the defensive line. And oftentimes that's a tough situation for a quarterback because he has to put the ball over the defensive line, which we talked about Miami's being very tall to begin with, and then drop it in front of that linebacker coverage, which he couldn't do right there.
Booza, Porter, Ray Butler, the wide receivers. Dickey and Newton Williams are the running backs. Pagel. He hits Butler.
Miami is doubling both outside receivers, knowing that Baltimore has to throw the ball. And there, Pagel scrambled. He ran out of the pocket when he was pressured. And Butler actually made a pretty good move working back toward the quarterback. Whenever a quarterback scrambles, receivers are taught to work back toward him to try and give him a target to be able to throw it.
I look for Ron Stark to fake this punt. He's in the mud. You're down by 21 points with 15 seconds to play on the third. If he has any chance at all, he may try and toss a pass or run for it. He's looking things over right now.
Miami usually doesn't get tricked that easily.
Now the quarter ends. So they'll change ends of the field, which will give Stark perhaps better footing from which to punt. 15 minutes. Official U.S. Cars and Trucks of the 14th Olympic Winter Games. Chevrolet and you taking charge. By Bud Light, the best has a taste all its own. And by Kentucky Fried Chicken, we do chicken right. Bill Stone along with Bob Chandler as the Colts appear to be punting the football away on 4th and 4. It is Ron Stark. And he will kick it away after a snap that came rolling back to him. That's Clayton. break. I didn't think the Dolphins were moving the ball well in the second half, and I kind of have the feeling that that man right there isn't trying to do a whole lot.
No, I think he would be more than happy to come out of here with a 21-0 victory today.
First and 10. Give right up the middle. It's Tony Nathan. Right now, all Shula and the Dolphins want to do is keep that clock running. Final end from Buffalo. The Bills on the short end. A 31-0 whipping by the New England Patriots. Atlanta, after trailing 21-0, has just taken a 24-21 lead over the floundering Jets. 32-yard field goal by Nick Luckhurst with 3:42 to play. Washington laying it all over the Detroit Lions, 38-17. 14-11 to play here at Baltimore, 21-0 Miami. That's Franklin, and he is hit at the line of scrimmage, possibly a yard. Down in 5. Now this time the Dolphins will not go out of the shotgun on 3rd and 5. But Marino, trying to keep the football, lays it out to Nathan on the screen. He's got the first down and more. Clock continuing to run. 3:13-12. A first down for the Dolphins. Another final score rolling in. It is now a final at RFK Stadium. Washington defeating the Lions 38-17. Heisman, a couple of touchdown passes to Art Monk and Joe Washington. Reggie Evans scored a touchdown, make it 2. Mosley a field goal. Nat Moore in motion to give right up the gut. Andra Franklin. Take a look at that. This is where just trying to stay on your feet is tough.
All right, back in New York, let me show you the game that just started in the Kingdome. Franco Harris from 9 yards away on the Steelers' first drive so quickly. Pittsburgh on top of the Seahawks, 7-0. Let's go back to Baltimore now.
That's a big, big game for both the Steelers and the Seattle Seahawks. That game at the Kingdome. Of course, the Steelers 5-2 in the AFC Central. Seattle, with a victory today, could move to within a half game of the Raiders, depending on what Los Angeles does tonight against the Cowboys. Whistle sound. Marino is down, and Duper tries to run under it. Good defense by Randall Tate. Tate, a late acquisition by Frank Cush and the Baltimore Colts. Really, they needed to go out and get another defensive back because of the Derek Hatchett incident, Bob.
Yeah, well, Derek has decided that he doesn't want to play for the Baltimore Colts, so he's done everything possible to try and get out of here. Here Marino lofts it up. You know, we heard a whistle. I'm not sure what happened, but it's a smart play for Marino to go ahead with the play regardless of whether he hears a whistle or not, because oftentimes it turns out to be a free play.
Shotgun, 3rd down and 7. Inside handoff, that's Nathan. And he is way short of the first down. Vernon Maxwell. What a job with help from Sanders Shiver.
We haven't heard too much today from Vernon Maxwell, and it's interesting how over the past few weeks, offenses have been able to kind of neutralize Vernon Maxwell. He was leading the NFL in sacks after the first 2 weeks, and since then he's really been kind of ineffective because what they've done is put somebody up in his face. He's not a real big physical guy. He's just a fast, very active linebacker. So by putting people up in his face, they've kept him out of a lot of the action over the last few weeks.
Robion to punt it away again. Porter, fair catch at the 20. 20-yard line. Packers are at it again. Dickey to Jefferson, and then Lynn came back and hit Mike Mead with 25 seconds. Make that 2 seconds left to send that one into overtime. Pagel ducks under the rush, then comes out and hits Tim Sherwin, who's tied in.
Under these adverse conditions, I've been pretty impressed by Mike Pagel today. When he has had to scramble, he's still looked for his receivers and he's tried to throw the ball. And he's been able to maneuver around a lot of that intense pressure that the Miami defense has been putting on him.
Now the Colts passing attack, 26th in the league in effectiveness. Not good. That is Dickey. But yet their running attack is first in all of football. The question becomes, Bob, what are the biggest differences? Why is an offensive line perhaps so good at blocking for the run and perhaps not so good at blocking against the pass?
Well, I think to begin with, the statistics are probably a little bit deceiving. They're number one in the rush because they run the ball so much. They have two very fine runners, and so drive blocking for offensive linemen is an easier task than being able to pass protect. And when you get into passing, it also has to encompass your wide receivers and the routes they're running and everything else. The added variables make it much tougher to do that.
McMillan tries the left side. Oh, I mean, he took on Gerald Small and knocked him into yesterday. Lyle Blackwood finally knocks him out of bounds, but Gerald Small will think about hitting McMillan again.
Yeah, you don't want to come up and hit a 225-pound back like that. You got to give them credit for that at this stage of the game. I mean, McMillan and Dickey are still running hard. And that's one of those things we talked about earlier where they pick up a lot of their yardage on second effort.
Pagel. Right over the middle of Sherwin, knocks it up in the air. It falls harmlessly to the mud. Wow, Blackwood, good coverage.
That's a very good read by Mike Pagel. What they're doing is they're doubling both outside receivers by rolling up their defensive backs on them and then covering them with somebody else deep. And so the guy to go to in that situation is your tight end who can find that hole or that seam in the middle, which Sherwin did there, but he just couldn't catch the ball.
The Dolphins return to the Orange Bowl next Sunday to take on the Los Angeles Rams. Pagel rolls right, steps left, unloads a strike intended for Bernard Henry, and he cannot hold it. A problem that has plagued this Colts offense the entire year. Receivers who cannot hold on to the football. In the first half, Ray Butler dropped one, and here in the second half, Booza, and now Bernard Henry, who cannot hold on.
Yeah, that's very discouraging because that's 30 yards of receptions right there that should have been made. Pagel does that little half roll to buy himself a little extra time and has been picking out the right receiver most of the day.
Pagel's numbers, 11 completions, 134 yards, and an interception. 3rd and 10. 9 minutes, 21 seconds to play in this ball game. Pagel unloads Booza, and he is intercepted by Gerald Small. And Tracy Porter brings him down. The second interception of Pagel today, the 4th turnover by the Baltimore Colts, and more importantly, it gives the Dolphins the ball. Excellent field position. Miami also owning a 21-0 lead.
Mike Pagel, his big mistake here, which is one of the first he's made today, is he's throwing into that double coverage, which is impossible to do. Gerald Small, who was the short man in the coverage, and he was backed up with some help back there by the free safety, managed to just fall off and pick off the ball. That's a mistake that Kush was afraid that Pagel would make if they got into a situation where they had to throw the ball very often this afternoon.
There's a great shot right there. Nat Moore in motion. Andra Franklin through the right side. He is into the Colts secondary. Picks up about 5 yards on the play. Burrows with help from Cliff Oden.
Well, Phil, 14,000 people decided not to show up today and stay home and listen to the game on radio, I think.
Do you blame them?
No, I'm freezing up here in the booth. I think the temperature's dropped about 10 degrees since we started.
Now there's the turnovers I spoke of a moment ago. A couple of interceptions and 2 fumbles. Second down. Nat Moore in motion. That is Tony Nathan, 50-year out of Alabama. I wonder how little confidence Shula has in the Dolphins' rushing attack this year. They have thrown now 15 touchdown passes and have rushed for only 4 touchdowns.
And that's something that probably you can't go back. You have to go back many years to find a Miami team that has done that. When they get down inside the 20, notoriously they've been a team that would run the ball in.
Atlanta has taken a lead over the Jets, 27-21. 7:42 to play here. The ball is on the ground. And here's Dan Marino recovering his own fumble. Another score. It is over at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, where the Minnesota Vikings, on a Benny Ricardo field goal from 32 yards out, have defeated the Packers 20-17.
Like we said, Miami's been pretty mistake-free today, but here's something that's probably inevitable on a day like this. At least one bad connection between the center and the cornerback. Marino was fortunate enough to fall on it.
Reggie Roby. Oh, he slipped when he tried to come through on that one. That's Ricky Porter at the 15. Out across the 20 near the Miami 21, Baltimore nothing. And the Colts have the football, 1st and 10 at the 24. Pagel unloads. That's McMillan, and he has got running room and banged out of bounds by Charles Bowser. I want to remind you to stay tuned to NBC. As soon as we finish up here at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, we'll be taking you to the Kingdome in Seattle, where the Pittsburgh Steelers already own a 7-0 lead over the Seahawks. Franco Harris, a 9-yard run. Another score, first quarter at Tampa Bay. It's the Bucks 14. The New Orleans Saints nothing. There's a surprise. One of your former buddies.
John McKay may win his first game today.
Yeah. Pagel trying to stand up. Can't do it. Again, it is Bowser. I started to say one of your former teammates, Kenny Stabler. Can't be liking what's going on there.
Kenny Stabler's had an amazing year this year. He seems ageless. He never could. In the last 5 or 6 years, he hasn't been able to run, and he's putting it together for New Orleans.
Now that's Charles Bowser, who has played one whale of a game this afternoon at linebacker for the Dolphins.
Well, that's something they definitely can't afford to have happen. So they have lost everybody, and they've even played Kozlowski, one of their defensive backs, at linebacker oftentimes this year. And if Bowser's hurt, he may have to go in there and play at a linebacker at a 195-pound defensive back.
Well, we documented early in this telecast how many linebackers the Dolphins have lost. Of course, just to recap, back in June, the tragic death of Larry Gordon, a heart attack in Arizona while preparing for training camp. And then Steve Scholl went down toward knee ligaments. Ron Hester, bone chips. Larry Evans, a severe knee sprain. Emmett Tilley, a separated shoulder. Ernie Rowe, pneumonia. He is out of the hospital. He's already missed a couple of games. Mark Brown, a bad, what's kind of like a turf toe. A.J. Dewey out with a severe groin pull. And now Bowser down and appears to be hurt because he is not getting up. And today, because of that massive number of injuries to the linebacking corps, Bob Chandler, the Dolphins had to alter their defense considerably, going from a much more comfortable 3-4 alignment to the 4-3 alignment. What does that do to your defense? What has that done to Bill Arnsparger?
Well, first of all, it's a tribute to Bill Arnsparger that they can play as effectively in a defense that is not really their forte. The 3-4 has become their number one defense. They've had to adjust because of the injuries, and they've made it work. The players believe in him. He puts a system up there before the week, and they work it out. And it's a tribute to what a fine coach he really is.
I understand last week during the game against the Jets, when Dewey went out very early and then Emmett Tilley went down, that Arnsparger grabbed a clipboard and redesigned the entire defense during the game against New York. That's McMillan. And he tries to dive out across the 35-yard line, and I think he came down right on the strike. Not out of bounds. Clock continues to run with 6 minutes and 17 seconds to play. It'll be third down and long.
Well, you know, it was interesting what Frank Kush said yesterday about Arnsparger. He said he's forgotten more football than I ever knew, which is a real tribute coming from a guy like Frank Kush, who is a very qualified coach, to a guy that everybody throughout the NFL very much respects, and that's Bill Arnsparger.
Well, Mother Nature, not content to mess things up on the playing field, she also apparently feels she can be a pretty good producer, because she has taken our sideline camera away from us, we understand. Our technical crew working feverishly to restore our ground level. Now Pagel, under heavy, heavy pressure, goes down, trying to unload to Randy McMillan.
I think, Phil, if we have to lose the camera, I think the ground level one's the best to lose, because we don't want to be down in that slop anyway.
Now there's a man who ought to be awarded a Congressional Medal of Honor. Barry Fisher, you're doing a whale of a job down there. Got to make sure we get a snorkel and fins down to him before too much longer. 5 minutes 40 to play. Ron Stark is on to boot it away. Fulton Walker back at his own 23-yard line. Stark, well, he has punted remarkably well in this stuff. Fulton Walker's got running room. 2 Colts miss him. He is finally down by the punter himself, Ron Stark. A decent return out near the 45-yard line. Give or take 5 yards.
Well, Fulton had a big week last week, and here, you know, he was really on his way, and Ron Stark makes the tackle. Ron Stark is one of those new breed of kickers who's a very fine athlete. I'm not saying they weren't in the past, but these are some quality athletes. He was a decathlon star. As you said, he can throw the ball. He throws right-handed, and he kicks left-footed. He's a very versatile guy, and I kind of agree with you. I'm surprised that we haven't seen him try something during this game when they...
Rain-soaked Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. 5:27 to play on this ball game. The Dolphins 21, Baltimore nothing. Nat Moore in motion to give right up the middle. It is Tony Nathan. Ball pops loose, and I believe it was whistled down, and it was. But the Dolphins will retain possession. Up at Shea Stadium in New York, the New York Jets scored the first 21 points of the ball game, and then it was all Atlanta. Bartkowski, a couple of touchdown passes. Billy White Shoes Johnson, a 71-yard punt return, and then Mick Luckhurst, 2 field goals with 3 minutes 42 seconds to play and 1:48 remaining at Shea, and that has been the difference. Atlanta 27, the Jets 21. That game is history now in New York. 2nd and 6. Little trap play. Ball pops loose. And the Colts have got it.
Well, Phil, that's the thing they were worried about with David Overstreet. He's been fumbling. As I said earlier, Shula is trying to work him in to give him some confidence. He gets a clean handoff here. Here you see him going in. Marino had to stretch a little bit, but he has possession of the ball. Just not protecting it as well as he should with both arms when he's running into heavy traffic like that.
Well, credit Cliff Odom. What a hit he put on Overstreet, and it was Vernon Maxwell who fell on it. The first turnover by Miami today, and that is saying something when you consider we have had a driving downpour since opening kickoff. Play action, Pagel. And he underthrows Tim Sherwin. Incomplete, I believe. The ball did bounce. It did. 3 officials converge.
That's just a matter of Pagel not being able to plant his feet and get the ball out there. He's been a little, if he hasn't thrown over on his misconnections today, he's been a little short on his passes. And that turf has a lot to do with it. You've got to take the time to set up and throw the ball.
Bob, the Baltimore Colts, losing this one to the Dolphins, will have lost 2 of their last 3, all at home here. And now they head on the road next week to take on Philadelphia and then to Shea to meet the Jets. That has got to be a tough task if you can't win at home. How are you going to win on the road? Right over the top. Sherwin, the tight end, bounces off Blackwood. And Kozlowski right into the arms of Kerry Totolo.
Well, Kush is kind of happy to get back on the road. He feels that the player, let's take a look at this pass here to Sherwin. They're doubling both outside receivers, which they've been doing this whole second half. Sherwin finds that open hole over the middle, makes a good catch with his hands on a very slippery ball, and picks up another 7 yards.
First down, the ball at the 23, through the left side. Pick up a 3 or 4. McMillan again.
Back to getting on the road. When Coach Kush said he's kind of happy to get back out on the road, he feels his players feel like they're under a little bit more pressure to perform well here, and thinks they may even play better when they're on the road.
Dickey comes out. That's Alvin Moore checking in, so it'll be Moore and McMillan. There is Frank Kush. On second down and 7, Pagel plants. Now unloads. That is Butler.
Coverage. We see Pagel dropping back in the middle of your screen. Gerald Small comes in front of him to almost try and make an interception and comes up a little bit short. Butler's got pretty good height, and it was a good throw by Pagel.
Now that's the first score we have had since midway through the second period. Stark puts it down. Allegre sends a line drive right over the crossbar. It ain't pretty, but it got the job done. So the Colts, with a touchdown and a point after, are on the board. Now trails the Dolphins 21-7 with 3 minutes and 13 seconds to play. Coming up next, stay with us for the second half of our NBC NFL doubleheader. You'll see the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Seattle Seahawks from the Kingdome in Seattle.
On that touchdown play to Butler, Pagel got good protection. He was able to stand in the pocket. You see him plant his feet there. Gerald Small makes a decision to go for the interception and comes up short.
As Kush said yesterday, the one thing he has to teach his second-year quarterback is to stay in the pocket, plant, and then throw. You can't throw when you're dancing. But in all due respect to Mike Pagel, he has been under such intense pressure all year long, Mike. As I said at the outset of the telecast, Bob, he has gotten sacked 18 times coming in, 3 more times today. It has to become difficult standing there and taking that kind of pressure.
It sure does. I think, if I saw all those big guys coming at me, I'd start dancing a little bit too. It's tough to let that pass rush go by you as you step up in the pocket. Your natural tendency is to try and get away from it.
Allegre onside. And it went 10 yards, and I think the Colts have it. The flags are down.
Colts may have touched that before it went 10 yards.
I think you're absolutely right.
And if so, they're going to have to kick it over again.
And why the officials talk things over, I want to thank our stats man, John Schneider, our spotters, Ron Thomas and Charlie Coliani.
What Miami has in here is they have their
10 yards.
Touched it before it went 10 yards. You'll see it here. It's about at 8 yards right there, and the kicker Allegre touches it himself. In a situation like that on an onside kick, Miami puts all the people on the front line and what they call their onside kick return team. Guys that are supposedly have good hands that can handle the football.
You know, with Allegre, Bob, getting such tremendous elevation on his kicks, I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see him try and drop one over the front line here.
That's a real possibility. Once you try the onside kick, you know Miami has their onside kick team in there. They're ready for it. But in conditions like this, it's still a good shot at it. Somebody could make a mistake.
3 minutes, 10 seconds to play. The Colts need the football and a couple of touchdowns to go with it. Ball pops loose. I think the Dolphins might have covered this one. Now they're still fighting for it down there.
That's the most dangerous pile right there to be in football.
And the Dolphins have it. Well, the onside attempt goes awry, and the Miami Dolphins with a 21-7 lead, 3 minutes and 4 seconds to play.
It's a pretty good attempt. It's a good onside kick here, and all you're really hoping for is that somebody in that front line makes a mistake. They managed to cover up the ball. It did get loose there, but they had enough Dolphins around it to grab it, hold on to it.
And it was Joe Rose who came up with the loose ball.
We've got another injury out there that occurred. And that's what I wasn't really joking. I didn't mean to make it sound like a joke when I said that that's one of the most dangerous pile-ups to be in, because people are doing everything they can to try and get a hold of the ball, and one of the Dolphins got hurt in that pile-up.
It looked as if it was Robert Sowell. I believe it was. There's a score from the Kingdome in Seattle. Pittsburgh 14-0. Harris with a 9-yard run. Quarterback Cliff Stout a 1-yard scamper. Now the Dolphins huddle around their injured player. 3 minutes and 4 seconds to go. From the 43-yard line. That's Tony Nathan. His way across the 30, near the 35-yard line, stopped short near the 37. Steve Parker on the tackle.
You know, I can tell you what's on both of these teams' minds right now. Miami wants to get into that shower and see what it feels like to get some of this dirt off and get in that warm shower. And Baltimore is really concerned about continuing to play tough during this last 2.5 minutes, because they know they're going to have to deal with Frank Kush come Monday. And that's kind of a scary experience for these guys.
Second down and 5. 2 minutes and 22 seconds to play. Andra Franklin through the right side, and he's still on his feet. Tripped up finally by Randall Tate, second year out of Texas Tech. Clock continues to run. Miami 21, Baltimore 7. The Dolphins on the move, and take a look at that, if you will. The Colts owning the yardage statistic against the Dolphins today, but as you have heard us say many, many times, statistics often do not tell the story. That's Andra Franklin fighting his way inside the 25-yard line. Johnny Cook's on the stop. Clock running, a minute 45, minute 44. Don't forget, stay tuned to NBC throughout the day. The second half of our doubleheader, we'll be taking you to a dry Kingdome in Seattle, where the Steelers already on top of the Seahawks 14-0. Stay with NBC News all day and all evening long for the latest developments on the tragedy in Beirut, Lebanon early today. Second and 9. Andra Franklin hit in the backfield. Great pursuit by the Colts offensive line and linebacker Cliff Odom.
Phil, we've talked today several times about the success of the Colts running game with McMillan and Dickey. And you know, one of their offensive backfield coach, Roger Theater, does an interesting thing. Saturday night before a game, he puts together a highlight film of their best runs throughout the season, and they sit and watch it. And he thinks, and it really works, he says it makes them believe that they feel very good about themselves and that they're good players. And he said it carries over into the game, and it helps their performance tremendously each week.
You kidding me? Those guys just want to be in that highlight film the following week. That's Overstreet. And again, he gets just about back to the line of scrimmage, and he is snowed under. Clock stops. Timeout. Baltimore Colts on 4th down and about 9. Coming up next, the Steelers and the Seahawks. Don Shula, he has had it tough this year, particularly the last few weeks. As you heard earlier on NFL 83, USFL New Jersey Generals owner Don Trump still trying to get Don Shula talked into coming over and taking over as head coach of the Generals.
Well, I asked him about that, and he really didn't want to give me a real straight answer. He was pretty non-committal. He said that he's very concerned about his team this year, and he's got a football season to finish, and pretty much left it to whatever has been said has been speculation. But with the kind of numbers they're talking about, I think anybody would have to take a long, hard, serious look at that offer.
Of course, the public figures say that Trump and the USFL is offering Shula $1 million a year, part ownership in the Generals, and the Baltimore TV stations and press today are saying that the only thing standing in the way is Shula wants one of those $2.5 million condominiums there in the Trump Tower right in the middle of Manhattan. And Trump still has not responded to that. David Overstreet through the right side. A little extracurricular activity down there on the playing field.
What we're going to see here is just a little bit of Baltimore's frustration. There's Vernon Maxwell, who's been pretty much stymied all day long. He's made a